Hello, how are
Hi.
we?
Good, thanks.
I am also well, and I love Pachinko. I am obsessed. I stayed up all night to watch the whole thing. Cannot wait for
Wow.
more. First, Jin Ha. Solomon is so clearly the culmination of everyone who's come before him, even from like the amazing opening sequence. I think that you can see that.
I am.
Can you talk about what it's like to really blend all these characters that have come before together?
First of all, is that Stitch peeking out
Oh my
from back
God!
there?
Everyone thinks it's Stitch. It's not. We're gonna pretend it's Stitch, but it's not. He's a little koala. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
Coming. I appreciate. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Yeah, I think that's actually really astute of you to ask that question because that's actually the response that I've been giving a lot, which is that Solomon is the result of the choices and the challenges of everyone who came before him. How did I integrate all that? I mean, I think the similar way to how we ask questions about ourselves, right? And where do we come from? What did our parents go through? What did our grandparents go through? I think that's sort of the approach from Solomon's experience and identity, his time in Japan, but also his education and working in America as well, in New England specifically, even more than that. If I just pull the thread a little bit on that, it immediately goes back to, oh, Japan. And then it immediately from there goes back to, oh, Osaka, and then also Korea. And that is, like a Wikipedia sort of like, a Wikipedia black hole. It just, everything is attached to each other. And I remember my first like month or two of research before we even started shooting was I just constantly had 50 Wikipedia pages, tabs, just open, being like, oh, this incident in this history, like that would have been something his dad went through. Like, oh, let me click on, and then it was just like absorbing all of that history.
Oh, that's awesome. Acting and a history lesson all in
Oh
one.
God,
That's
yes,
beautiful.
absolutely.
No, Naomi is really like our peek into the struggles of women in the business and in that time period in the country. Can you talk about how she's facing kind of a different kind of prejudice from Solomon?
So this is back in the 80s, the Equal Employment Opportunity Law was implemented in Japan. And so society was starting to open up to women, but people weren't necessarily doing the same. So even though she is in management position, they look down on her. And with Solomon there, I think it's even harsher for her to see people going to Solomon, who is in people's eyes an outsider because he's not Japanese, but still they regard him as better than going to Naomi. And so she sees him as a little bit of a rival. She's envious of him, and he is doing a lot better than she thought that he would. And so I think that's really harsh for her. But there's also a little bit of intrigue. He's a little bit mysterious, and I think, it's an interesting relationship to see.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, Solomon also has an interesting relationship with Hana. Can you talk about what Hana represents to him?
Who? Hana represents I think, traumatic past that he's done a lot of work to try to distance himself from. It's also within our show too, a little bit different from the book. It's a surprise that she comes back into his life. I don't think he was coming back to Tokyo specifically for this deal opportunity, expecting to go immediately back to New York once this deal is signed.
Right.
And Hana somehow finds him and reconnects, and all of the history that they shared growing up together, a Japanese woman that's been, through her mother somewhat socially ostracized, and Zainichi, Korean Japanese young man whose father runs a pachinko parlor, and it's like all of those social stigmas that are sort of at play. They find each other in that sort of liminal space of we both don't fit in a lot of ways. And I think there was an incredibly strong bond that because of extenuating circumstances, it gets split apart. And so it's incredibly fraught. There's a lot happening when they reconnect, and I think it throws his world into a complete tailspin.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Wonderful work, and I cannot wait to see more Pachinko in my life.